how would I then start leveraging this system, knowing what I know now and into the future, knowing where Salesforce is going? Well, I want to show you what I truly didn't expect would be a benefit for me of using Salesforce, but now that I've been using it for a couple years for external recruiting, this is how I would start taking advantage of this. Hey everyone, welcome into this episode of Salesforce for Recruiters. I'm your host as always, Brad Owens, and I was just like you. I was a recruiter for well over a decade using various pieces of technology that never really fit what I wish they could do for me. And then I saw Salesforce and I went, where has this been all my life? So I've dedicated this show, Salesforce for Recruiters, to helping you understand some of the things that I wish I knew way earlier on in my journey with Salesforce, and also give you some tips, some tricks, and help you avoid some of the mistakes that I made along my journey. So for today, I'm going to take you into what is probably the most requested thing for this channel. I'm going to take you through how I actually used to use Salesforce for recruiting. I'm going to walk you through all the different things that I have set up, how I used to do things, and maybe give you a little bit of things of how I would have tweaked things so that it would give me a better system to use. And since there's been some updates to some of the apps and some of the ways that it works since I was using it, I'm going to point those things out as well. So follow along in the journey today and learn how I use Salesforce for recruiting. So welcome in. This is our Salesforce home for today. I'm going to use this environment in about the exact same way that I use this as an external recruiter. Drop me a note real quick in the comments and let me know that you want to see an internal recruiting example. I can absolutely set that up and show you. But for today, we're going to use it as an external recruiting firm or a staffing firm or a solutions company, however you want to call it. Let's start off our journey here inside Salesforce talking about how I would set up my environment to help me organize my day. Now, Salesforce has the ability to set a homepage when you log in. So each individual person would get their own homepage with things that are relevant to them. So I want to show you how I organize my day here. So here inside of this Salesforce environment, we're using the Asymbl applicant tracking system. It's a bolt-on applicant tracking system that works inside Salesforce. So with the Asymbl applicant tracking system, you get the ability to start tracking your jobs and using the full-featured ATS inside. And one of the things that it comes with is the ability to have a whiteboard. So when I used to set up my day, no matter where I was, I used to always have a whiteboard, whether it was in my personal office, at our headquarters, wherever it was, I used to have a big whiteboard. So Asymbl allows you to create a digital version of that. So you can see here, I have the 3 different jobs that are visible to me right now that I'm working on. I've got today's goal, the things that I'm going to do. Those roll up to my managers so they can see that. And then I've got some various information, and I can keep track of different things that if I want to. I also wanted to see some of the recently assigned jobs, all the new ones that we've won, the things that I need to come up to speed on and start working on. This could kind of be where I go next. So after I take care of the jobs that I'm working on today, I can see what I need to do next. And I've also got a task manager in here as well. I used to throw little tasks in there so I make sure I follow up and do the right types of things on a day-to-day basis. And this is where I used to keep them in my little task manager. Also, as I started moving through the ranks, I wanted to see a bit different KPIs and I wanted to see some more reporting out of my system. So I used to build dashboards, and this is an example of one of those dashboards I used to build. So I used to see my submissions to interview ratio for myself and in the future and for my team. All the new applications that came in overnight that I may need to review. I wanted to see the activities of where I stack up with all of my fellow recruiters and, really just get a sense overall of where my applications are for all of my jobs. So I can see here at a glance that I need some more for the software engineer role because there's only one, but I feel pretty good about this product manager role, which is 191. So that's how I would set up my home screen so that I understand where to start my day. Now, when I started digging into my day, I typically wanted to go after closing all of the leads and focus on my task list. So over here, you can see that I need to close this project manager opportunity right now with Mariana Smith, who's the hiring manager. So let's dig into this project manager opportunity here, and I'll show you how I used to set up that sales process so I could start winning a lot of those jobs and getting those job orders open for our organization. So here on this opportunity object, which comes with Salesforce when you're using more of their sales-focused programs, this is how I used to organize my day. And the reason I liked it is because this whole screen shifts as you walk through the sales process. So as you get a brand new lead, you can see if I was on lead, I would need to start acquiring some information. So I need to know who it is, where this came from, and I gave my recruiters a little guidance for success of here's the typical things that you would want out of a lead. As we started moving through, all right, we accepted it. Why did we accept it? What kind of probability? What's the next step for this role? Here's the types of things that you can do in this stage. So I used to guide my salespeople through this as they were winning one. But you can see today we're in this discovery phase. So I need to understand what the pay rate is, ideal skill set, their immediate deal breakers, some of those things. I'm starting to discover that throughout this process. So you can see as I move through, I'm starting to learn new things about this. I used to set them up with some sample contracts that they can always dig into. And I used to make sure that all the guidelines that they had to follow for, different rates that we would accept and things like that. So I could really start helping people move through this sales process, no matter how senior they were to my team. So as I'm moving through, I'm filling out this record, right? I'm starting to understand, hey, what's the probability rate? What's the placement fee we've negotiated based on the starting salary that they want? What is that placement fee going to be likely for us? Start taking down some information on this. And as I continued through the sales process, all these activities are tracked. So you can see all of the cold calls that I've made, all the tasks I have for myself, all of that is tracked. And it's not just available for me to see, my entire team can see that as well. So those are some of the things that I'd want to see on the opportunity itself. And as I started moving through, let's say I'm an amazing salesperson and I close this thing, I would close it as 1 because I won the opportunity for us to work on this job. And then what I needed to have happen is to have my recruiting team immediately get notified of this new job. So over here, just because I have the Asymbl applicant tracking system built into this environment, when I won this contract for a new job, it immediately created a new job for my recruiting team to work on. So then I can start picking up on the recruiting process. But that's how I'd at least start organizing my sales day. So now that we have this new job for us to work on, our sales team did their job of acquiring a new job. Now I needed to start my day as an actual recruiter, right? So let's go back. Let's come to our recruiting tab here, so that we can see how we can move forward in our day. So we just won, you can see over here, we just won that project manager role. So let's dig into the project manager role. Now you can see it's a brand new position. We just won it. All of the information that our sales team has collected has pulled over because we now have all this job information, which aligns with what we just saw at the sales side. We have a job description that was generated for us. If we needed to generate a new one, we can. There's a bunch of different ways we could do it. We could organize it through maybe some OpenAI and ChatGPT kind of functions. We could use any of the new Einstein features that may be coming out, wink, to identify a new job description that we could have as available to us. So this is where I, as a recruiter, would really start. I just need to understand what's going on with this job. So again, to get you familiar with the Salesforce interface and how I used to go about my recruiting day, we're just going to walk through here as a recruiter on the beginning stages of actually collecting candidates and adding them to a job. That's where we're going to start today. This job has been posted externally. It's out on a website that we can control from here. If you want to dig into how we would do that, just put a comment below that you want to see more about the actual job website. But we're collecting applications that come in through all of our various channels, and they end up here under this tab, this Manage Applicants tab. And this, again, is part of the Asymbl applicant tracking system. It just comes out of the box. It's a bolt-on, and this is where everyone's resumes would start collecting. And you can see they're all tagged in different ways, like they're new to our system, or they're identified already as a contact in our system. So this person, Dom here, got identified as a person who was already in our system, who'd applied to other things. And from here, I'd want to start filtering through all these applicants, right? So you have the ability within the Asymbl applicant tracking system just to click the search button. And if you needed to start understanding, hey, why were they a good fit for this role? Why did they apply? Start searching for some keywords. They would all highlight for you. You can also see all the answers to the questions that they entered when they applied for this job. So these are just the 4 different fields that I asked for when people applied. If you wanted to go through and have all the different types of applicant questions, go for it. This is just what I use as an example. And then it would show me the contacts that are already in my system. And I can see all the different history that's on them. So I can start taking these individuals here. And let's say I liked these 3 and wanted to add them to my system. I just click here and add them to the job, and they go directly to that job. Now, I didn't just have all the applicants that applied to a job. I also had the ability to go through my database and start finding people that I thought would be a good fit for this role. So you could add on a different search and match feature that would go through and search through all your different resumes, but I used to always have a separate spreadsheet of all the candidates that are perfect for a potential job. And the Asymbl ATS comes with the same sort of type of thing. They called that contact list. And you can see here that since this is the project manager job, I probably want to start with my project manager's list, right? So what I would do is I'd open up my list of people that are all project managers. And this gives you the ability to do a number of different things. One, you have the ability to not only see the people that are on this list, complete with their contact information, just like you'd expect from a list of candidates that you'd have on some kind of spreadsheet, but you can also see their resume right here that you'd be able to see directly beside them. You also can see, right here is their resume if you needed it, but you can also see here's all the interviews that this person's been going out on. Here's all the offers we've ever given them. Here's all the placements we've ever sent them out on. So you start collecting a good bit of information here. And you can then start selecting who do I really want to be added to this particular job. So not only that, you can start adding criteria, like this person needs to have this particular certification or live in this zip code or this many miles from whatever. You can start adding all of these and it'll filter down these contacts for you. So let's say I liked all of these individuals. I'd just select them all and I'd say that I want to add them to a job. So here I'd add them to this job. And what was that job that we were working on, right? It was that project manager role. So this pulls up your recent jobs that you've been working on. I can add them directly to that project manager role. And just like that, they're already there. I didn't have to go through some data passing back and forth. If I go to this Kanban view right here, look, they're all here already because we're working from the exact same system. I'm not pulling candidates from somewhere else and adding them to a job. They're all here in my system. And now I have those candidates that I can start working through my process. From this point here, now I have these candidates who I've identified as good fits for my potential role. I need to start moving them through the interview process. Well, the way that it works inside of Salesforce and the Asymbl applicant tracking system, I want to show you how you can set that up. So you can see here, I've got just these particular stages: the application, the internal review, client submittal, interview, offer. Maybe I don't want those. Maybe I wanted to switch some of those. So for some of my potential roles, I'd want different types of templates. So the Asymbl applicant tracking system has the ability to create different types of ATS templates. You can add your own types of stages. So you can see here, these are all those stages that I mentioned before, along with some different ones. So if I wanted to maybe create a different version of this, I can clone this template just so we have something to start from. And if I wanted to remove this second interview here and instead say that for this particular company, I wanted to have a panel interview, I could do that just to show you how these features work. I'll say this is 60th. So now I've got a panel interview added down here. And if I wanted to move that panel interview, let's say that the panel interview needed to happen, I don't know, here after this first interview. We could just drag it up. Now at each one of these stages, we want to have things happen. And I want to show how we would set those things up. So at one of these stages, we could potentially have an action. Now this action could be to notify someone in the system. It could be to call out to some external system. It could be to just send a simple email. Anything that you'd like to automate, you can have set up here. And it's not just these simple things. This takes advantage of the automation built into the back end of Salesforce. So you have the ability to run things that are called, their automation engine called flows. So if you wanted to call it to a different system, if you wanted to automate anything inside the entirety of your database, you can do that here. And because I'm using the Asymbl applicant tracking system in this example, you have that ability to call those things from these stages. So that's just to show you how you could set these stages up for your particular type of role. So let's go back to the role we're actually working on. So you could see that I've got these people who are applicants for this particular role. And I want to show you what would happen. Like, let's say we really enjoy Brian and Deckard and Dominic here. Let's move them to our internal review stage. And you can see that little screen that popped up. That was the automations that were happening in the background. So because I work split desk, or I used to work split desk, my recruiters, or I as a recruiter, would be working these candidates, and I put them in this shortlist here, this application stage. Now I move them to internal review, which means I like these people enough that I want to notify the salesperson that I've got some individuals that would be good. So the keen-eyed viewers of you may see up here, there's a new notification. Well, if I were the salesperson working on this role, I would see I've got some new candidates to review. And just with a click, I'm brought to the exact same screen that the recruiter's on. And I can see, oh, all right, I've got 3 different candidates that I need to have for internal review. Again, this is just how I used to set up my process. It doesn't mean that you have to set it up this way. I'm just walking you through how I used to use it so that you may have some ideas. So here, let's say that we looked at all of these candidates. I really liked Brian. I'm going to submit that person to the client. So I, as a salesperson, could take that responsibility of dragging Brian over to the client. And you can see that I've got automation set up to fire here in the system, that an automatic email goes out to the hiring manager with some details around this applicant. And also it's already attached their resume so that they can go through and see that. So I'll just skip it for now. But now you can see all of these automations are starting to happen in the background. This is how I used to use this system to manage all of my applicants that were in process and how I'd move them through the actual stages of my ATS. We all know during the entire interview process, there's not just, hey, we need to interview this person, we need to send them out to the hiring manager. There's a lot of different things we had to do in the background. Now, I showed you a little bit earlier how we would set up those automations for these different stages through ATS actions in the Asymbl applicant tracking system, which is what we're using here. But I want to show you what all of that really leads to. So we'll take Brian here. We will move them to, we sent them out to the hiring manager in our last little section there. So now we're going to set them up for an interview. Now, we need to automate this, right? We need to make sure that we understand the availability of Mariana. We know that she's got availability next week on the 10th, and it's going to be for an hour. Now, as soon as I click next, this is going to automatically send that calendar invite. Because we have those ATS actions set up in the back end, this is sending out calendar invites automatically to both the hiring manager and the candidate. And I used to have automation set up to send Brian the all-important, here's how to prep for the interview video that I used to make. So I made a video I just put it out on YouTube. Here's how I would prepare for interviews. I would send that to the candidate, and then I'd call them 2 days before, ask them, hey, how did you like the video? Most of them probably hadn't watched it yet, but that was my way that I would quiz them. I'd say, oh, okay, so if you get this kind of question, how would you respond? And they go, and they wouldn't really know how to respond to that. So I'd send them again to the video. We'd do some more role play there on the phone, and I'd feel confident with them walking into that interview. They'd walk into the interview, they'd come back, they'd give me some feedback. I'd record that here in my system, and then I'd call the hiring manager, get their feedback. I'd also put that here in the system. This can all be set up here in the Asymbl applicant tracking system. So then let's say it went really well. I'd have to move them over to the offer stage. When I moved them over, I automatically pre-filled all the salary that we already negotiated. And I used to have everyone pre-closed. So I would go ahead and say that they accepted that offer immediately because I knew if I got that number from the hiring manager, I better be able to close that from the candidate side. So that's how I would move through and actually create an offer and get that accepted. Now, as soon as that offer went out, as soon as that button was clicked that you just saw me do, I'd have an automation set up to fire through DocuSign. So they would get documents in DocuSign just from me dragging them into this stage with a brand new offer letter that's been tweaked to say the offer that they were getting. Now, they'd automatically sign that. And when they signed that, what would happen is in my system, Brian, I'd just come in the next day, Brian would automatically be moved over to a placement. He'd have all those details already filled out because he had signed that DocuSign. And then all of the other automations that need to happen now that we have a closed placement would fire. So you can see that this job here is now closed. We've closed it because we had a person sign our offer letter. All of the other candidates in here would get that, hey, sorry, we've closed the position email. So these are all the different ways that I used to take advantage of automation. But how would I then start leveraging this system, knowing what I know now and into the future, knowing where Salesforce is going? Well, I want to show you what I truly didn't expect would be a benefit for me of using Salesforce, but now that I've been using it for a couple years for external recruiting, this is how I would start taking advantage of this. So you saw us in these previous sections move through an entire sales process. We went through getting that new job order. We won the job order. Now we moved through the entire recruiting process. Now that I have been using this system and been creating all of this data and understanding more about the hiring process, all that's been recorded for me. And you can see that right here in this related tab. Now in this related tab, you see all the applicants that ever applied to this job. You saw all the interviews that ever happened, the offers that I sent out, the placements that were made, all of the history of the changes of all this job. And all of that is being understood in context by now Einstein inside Salesforce. So because I'm using the Asymbl applicant tracking system and actually moving candidates through Salesforce, every single one of those interactions is getting recorded, and it's allowing the Einstein AI that's built into Salesforce to learn from that interactions. So think about this. Just from this applicant list right here, I now know that all of these individuals here at some point were either through their own understanding or through my addition, a good potential fit for a job called a project manager. Next time one of those roles opens up, Einstein might be able to remember that for me. Now, here's all the interviews that took place on this particular job. So think about what we've just reinforced there. This individual, Brian, and down here, Deckard, both of them were such a good fit for this job that they got interviewed. So now if a new position for a project manager comes up, both Brian and Deckard should be weighted a little higher because they've proven through interactions in the system that they're a good possible fit. And Einstein's starting to learn from all this stuff. Take it a step further, right? Here's offers we've sent out for a project manager role for both Brian and Deckard. So not only were they a good fit that we want to move them to an interview, but they're also a better fit because we've sent them an official offer for this role. So we know they're a good fit. Look at all of that interaction data that we were able to glean just from moving through our system, that a typical matching engine that just looks at a resume and a job description wouldn't have understood that would make these individuals such a good fit for this role. So let me take that a little bit further. Being able to search someone's resume and be able to match that up to a job description is a great potential first step. I don't think the need for that type of matching engine is ever going to go away. We're going to have to start somewhere. But what I'm saying is after creating that initial list and starting to work those individuals through your system should be intelligent enough to learn how good were those actual matches that I served up before. That's where Einstein's going to start helping out. It's going to learn from all of that data from just moving people through this system, that it's going to know what are good matches for you and your particular types of jobs because it's going to learn from all of that data. So that's why using Salesforce as your applicant tracking system and measuring all these interactions and keeping all these in the same system is going to play such a vital role into the future, because Einstein, the AI that's built into this, is going to learn from every single thing you and your recruiters and your salespeople do. This is why it's so important to start now inside of Salesforce and bringing all that data in, because into the future, it's going to be incredible what Einstein could do for you. I hope that gave you a good glimpse into how I was able to use Salesforce in my previous life to run my entire recruiting group. I had the ability to not only do sales, but I did my recruiting all within Salesforce. Again, today, what you saw was powered by the Asymbl applicant tracking system. It's the best bolt-on applicant tracking system that they have available inside of Salesforce, and it's the one that I would highly recommend because it made all those features I just showed you possible. So the Asymbl ATS, if you want to find out more, it's asymbl.com. If you have any additional questions of how you could use Salesforce for recruiting, please either put those in the comments below or send them to me at hello@bradowens.com. One, I think we need to look at the internal recruiting use case. So if you would like to see more about that, please put a comment below or send me an email. I'm happy to go through that use case as well. This was meant to show you more of a mix of how I used to and how I wish I could have done recruiting inside Salesforce. So if you see any of this that you want some more details on, please shoot me a question as well. I'll also look at the comments for those. But this has been another episode of Salesforce for Recruiters. If you like this, there's plenty more at salesforceforrecruiters.com. Hope to be able to see you there or on the next episode. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.